Welcome in, everybody, to episode number 27 of Understable Minds. My name is Anthony, sitting to my left, but farther to my left than normal, in the lightest blue shirt.
Yes.
Kind of like a tealish, turquoise-ish.
It is teal.
Yeah, that's Eric McCabe.
What's up?
Sitting between us is a man that most people, I would assume, recognize. This is Doug Bjerkaas. Doug is the president of DynamicDiscs. Yes, round of applause. Round of applause. Doug is the president of DynamicDiscs, tournament director of the 2022 Worlds, tournament director of the DynamicDiscs Open 2016, PDGA tournament director of the year. Doug.
So that sound effect of that hand clapping, there should have been like a standing ovation for Eric McCabe. I don't understand how he just.
You've never listened to the show before.
Yeah, we're used to him. Eric's here all the time. It's not eventful. Obviously,
Are you kidding me? Doug is like the TD of this. Will be your 6th World Championships. Is that correct?
5th. I was not around for the amateur, but
the original AMs.
Oh, counting right. Junior Worlds.
Junior Worlds. Yep. And then we did Pro Worlds in 16, and then this will be Doug's 5th.
Wow.
Yep.
How many of those have you won, Doug?
Let me do some quick math. That would be 0.
Dang it. I figured 5 times. Those are pretty good odds to get one win in there. Before we get into the actual episode and the meat of the show, obviously Doug is filling in for AJ. AJ Risley is out of town, coming back. He will be back for episode 28, which will be next week.
Yeah.
Also next week, we have a very sweet new release. It almost feels fair to call it a lineup. There's a ton of different discs. We've got them here on the table. We can go through them real quick. Audio people, I'm sorry. You don't get to look at these. You'll just have to hear our opinions. But we've got a ton of stuff. First up for Ricky Wysocki, we've got First Run Orbit Saki Bomb Slammers. Take that, pass it around. Yeah. Also for Ricky, we've got the Lucid Ice Glimmer Raiders. These, we'll see if you can hear it.
Yeah, you can hear it.
Yeah, those things feel like they are going to be monstrously overstable.
I have thrown them, and they are fantastic.
So how is it compared to a stock Lucid Raider?
Much more overstable, and I think it's the dome, and I believe these even have that Next Edge technology to them.
Oh,
with the flashing removal, and they just feel so good. They look so good, and yeah, they're so good.
So how are they? Ricky had just stock Lucid Raiders with his stamp on it before, right? Is it similar to those? Because I haven't thrown those yet either.
It's similar in regard of the stamp, but not as far as the flight. I think these are going to be just a touch more overstable, kind of like what Ricky was looking for, is a little bit more overstable, predictable Raider, and I think we nailed it with this one right here.
Okay, perfect. Speaking of a touch more overstability, we have the Valerie Mondojano Fusion X Vandals. She's got 2 different stamps that you can see here. The Vandal is similar to, it's like a faster Maverick, maybe not quite as understable as an Escape.
Yeah.
Kind of a slightly understable 9-speed fairway driver. Valerie throws it a ton for hyzer flips. I know people throw them a lot for rollers.
Yes.
The Fusion X plastic should make it just a little bit more overstable, like we were talking about.
Yeah, I haven't thrown the Fusion X ones. I do have a Fusion one in my bag that I use as rollers, as you mentioned. But these I think are going to be just great for anybody's game, really.
Yeah.
I think Doug needs a Vandal in his bag.
You know, I actually do have a Vandal in my bag.
See?
Is that like sidearms, headwinds?
However, it's not. Yeah. Actually, Eric was talking about that Raider being more stable. I love the Fusion Raider, but that's enough disc for me.
Same. Yeah, you and I are in the same boat here.
I don't know if I could go up a level in stability. Be like throwing a table saw blade.
Not recommended, by the way.
No.
Next up is the Macy Veladiaz Lucid Ice Justice. I don't know if it's possible for a Justice to be more overstable, but I would bet that those are just a hair more overstable.
I bet you're right. I haven't thrown one of these yet, but they look good. They look like candy almost, like Jolly Ranchers, right?
They do.
Yeah. It's that Lucid Ice just looks fantastic.
Yes. Big fan over here.
Yes.
One that we don't have because your local retailers have already bought all of them is the VIP Mouthless King from Westside Discs. It is a VIP King, but the stamp was tweaked so that the King has no mouth.
Yeah.
You can't see his mouth. This is a very limited run. I don't know the exact number, but I think it's in the neighborhood of like 1,000, maybe a little bit less. So if you are a disc collector out there, a King fan, definitely check those out. And then last but not least, the B dynamic stamps. It's BEE, like bzzzt. There is a bzzzt on it, but the discs are...
They're really good.
Very cool. We've got Lucid Ice EMAC Truths. This is the same plastic as Macy's Justice, but in the EMAC Truth. Mm-hmm. So again, have you thrown them, Eric? Is it a little bit more stability added?
This feels like an EMAC Judge.
Thanks for breaking the fourth wall, Doug. Okay. The EMAC Truths, are, like the Kings, are also
sold out. But I did have some of these stamped with these. But no, I honestly haven't thrown the ice ones yet.
Okay,
I haven't. From my experience, though, I have thrown some in the past, and those are actually a little straighter. The sparkle ones, the ones that have like the sparkle in them. I think the bees also have the sparkle in them, and those seem to be a little bit straighter on the EMAC Truth.
Okay, so if you're not wanting to beat one up, or if you lost your beat up one, we also have triple burst escapes. So it's like burst but tripled. Yeah. There's just more.
There's just 3 of them.
Burst to it. Yeah, the escape is like we were talking about with the Vandal, an understable 9-speed fairway driver. Lots of glide, lots of distance for a fairway driver. Also, blend burst judges, classic blend burst judges. And then the thing that I am most excited about coming out next week, there are hybrid culprits with the B Dynamic stamp.
Yes.
I believe this is the first time that people can get the culprit on our website. You can get it through the Match Play, the USAMPC player pack, is it? Do you get it, or is it the one that the TDs can sell?
Nope. The if you play in the USAMPC, which is still going on right now, and you guys can check out discgolfmatchplay.com for more information on that. But yeah, a culprit comes in that player pack. Boy, this is a pretty disc.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah, so the Match Play culprits are Prime Moonshine, where these ones are hybrid. Have either of you had the chance to throw the culprit much, Doug?
I've thrown it a couple times, and it's tough for me to add a new disc to my bag. So I don't think it'll make my bag, but it's a good disc. It's a really good disc.
What about you, Eric?
I've thrown are they Prime Moonshine ones? I've thrown those a little bit. I haven't thrown anything in premium plastic, which I think would... There's not really a spot like that in my bag that I have like super overstable. I have a Justice in there, and it flies probably once a month.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I just don't throw very often. I'm more of a point and shoot kind of player. I don't need that super overstable. I like neutral flights. But that being said, anytime there is wind, I think one of these could definitely find its way in my bag.
Yeah. That is one for me that I've been waiting for that disc. It's a little bit more overstable than a Suspect, but it still has that kind of shallower feel. It's not as overstable as the Saki Bomb Slammer. Those are very overstable, where the culprit is still very overstable, but I wouldn't say it's quite like Justice to Verdict. It's kind of like Justice to Lucid X Verdict, maybe.
Okay.
Definitely more than a Suspect. I would guess more than a Harp, but not quite as much as the Saki Bomb Slammer. Like we said, those are coming out June 9th, 11 a.m. Central Time on DynamicDiscs.com or your favorite local retailer. Just because we don't have it here, like the Kings and the Ice EMAC Truths, those will still be available on the website. They just are not here at the headquarters. They're already at the retail store waiting for your orders coming next week.
Yes.
Cool. Let's move on with the actual show.
Oh, all right.
Do we have transitions, Danny? All right, Doug, Eric. Doug, we alluded to you being the tournament director for the Dynamic Discs Open as well as the Professional World Championships. Those will be on the same courses. So we had the Dynamic Discs Open just about exactly 1 month ago, actually. So we've kind of collected some feedback on that, and we'll be tweaking the courses. Is that a fair word to use?
It is. After looking at the courses and seeing what happened on them, although I will tell you, and Eric and I both have talked about this quite a bit. Some of the data was tough to digest, knowing how windy it was, especially at Supreme. Mm-hmm. That course had 2 days of very, very high winds, and so doing an analysis on the scoring can be a little bit skewed with all that wind. So, but yeah, we've met with the PDGA. We've talked about several things that we can do to potentially improve the courses, and we're looking forward to doing that.
Very cool. Is there any sort of, I don't know, sneak peeks or anything that you guys can give us about maybe a change or two, or do we have all the changes? Are they decided on? I'm sure those discussions have happened, but whether or not they've been decided or anything we can say?
As Doug mentioned, we did have a meeting with the PDGA, and we went through a lot of the potential changes that we're looking at doing, and they had some as well. And I think tonight after work, actually, Doug and I are going to go out to the course and look at a couple spots, because sometimes you just need to go out there and look. You can't just make that decision from a computer.
Right.
And so Doug and I will be going out there and looking at a couple potential changes out there. And as Doug had mentioned earlier as well, a lot of the issues at the event were wind related, and we're hoping we won't have as much wind. Typically we don't in the summer months. So April is one of the windiest months in Kansas, especially here in Emporia. So, but yeah, I think the one hole that caused the most trouble or was talked about the most was probably hole 4 at the Country Club. Yep. It played as a fantastic par 4 for the FPOs and not such a good par 3 for the MPOs. Yeah. I think had we had better wind, you would have had some more people getting into circle 2 potentially, but we are potentially looking at moving the tee for the MPOs and having it be a par 3 for the MPO from a new tee pad. So it will be the first time in Emporia history potentially that the MPOs have teed off from a shorter tee. Is that correct?
I think you are correct.
Yeah, so typically it's the FPO field that has the shorter tee or the shorter pins, but for that particular hole, we're looking at changing it up a little bit, and there's a couple locations for a really cool hole, and we're going to head out there and look at that after work.
Yeah, and I think it'll be to the right of that hole so that it won't interfere at all with the longer pad the FPO will play from.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, I think, Eric, most of it is, we are looking at a handful of shorter FPO pins. I know we're trying to standardize some of the drop zone language. There's a couple of water carry holes at Supreme where we had some options for players, and I think we're likely going to be landing on mandatory drop zone if you end up out of bounds on those holes.
Sure.
Just a few tweaks, but generally speaking, the PDGA was thrilled with both courses.
Yeah.
We actually got a lot of good feedback on the Supreme 18, and I believe it's going to be a fantastic test of the mettle of these disc golfers to, eventually crown a world champion in both the MPO and FPO divisions.
You were talking about hole 4 at the Country Club, and that one reminds me a lot of hole 18 tournament layout at Waco, where if there's a headwind, nobody's ever going for that. But if there's a tailwind, it's so gettable for half of the MPO field. And I think it's just the way that the wind worked out that weekend. It was unfortunately a headwind both days at the Country Club, and nobody could get there because it's
580, I think, or something like that.
Right. In a headwind, like that's just not happening.
Yeah.
But tailwind, So maybe we'll have a different wind, or
580 into a headwind, Anthony. You could get that. We both could get that. It'll just take us 3 or 4 throws.
Yeah. Sure. Plus my OB stroke, because I'll definitely land on the green. And the other thing that I had heard talked about a lot was OB marking. And so I wanted to kind of hear your guys' opinions on do we think that we're going to be changing the OB marking? Because to me, a flag is fine because I can see that, and I'm not good enough to throw a disc and know like that flag is exactly 430 feet away. So if I throw this 420 feet or whatever, but obviously at the top level, those guys and girls can do that, and they can see something, pick that distance, and make fine-tune adjustments. So do we think that we're going to be marking OBs differently, or was that something that's in discussion with the PDGA?
I don't recall that coming up at all with the PDGA. I know we had talked about it a little bit from player feedback. I think we're still in discussions on what we're going to do on that regard. However, we've been painting OB line. We've been doing this OB for as long as we've been running events. And this is the first year anybody has said anything about it. So, it's one of those things. Is it something that needs changed or not?
Sure.
So I'm not sure 100% what we're going to do there just yet.
Yeah, that was some decent feedback we got from people that basically said, hey, we love the course. The only thing was the OB was kind of hard to see. And we heard that also from people that were viewing that while the white flags are great, and we'll always have painted lines for OB, but we are thinking perhaps maybe taking some wall signs or maybe even creating some spectator roped areas just to visually so that you can see the OB. It makes sense. We're not fully committed to that change yet, but it is definitely something we're considering.
Yeah.
And speaking of the ropes, how good did the country club look on Saturday, Sunday with those spectator ropes? And it felt, I've been to a handful of PGA Tour events and it felt like a PGA Tour event out there, but where the spectators were, allowed to go in certain areas and not other areas. There was crossings, because I know in PGA, when you're out, you can cross a fairway. There's just people at both sides waiting to let you through when holes are done. So it felt really cool. It looked really great out there. So props to everybody that had anything to do with that.
Yeah. And we got a lot of good feedback from the players because they had kind of a peace of mind as they were playing that their area was their area and the spectator area was the spectator area. We have racked our brains on how to come up with something similar at the Supreme 18 at Jones. Unfortunately, the way that course is laid out, I don't think we could completely replicate that, but we are looking at ways to get more spectators at the Supreme 18 course than we had at the DynamicDiscs Open, where I think it was limited to about 300. One of the things we've actually been talking about is potentially having a road pass where
that's exactly what I was thinking.
If you're at Jones Park, you can stay on the road. There's a couple holes, Eric, where on 12 and 13 and 18, we'd have to direct some traffic because the players need to clear the road.
Yep.
But other than that, it may give more people an opportunity to take in the action. And I do believe this event will be a huge, it's disc golf history. World Championships are, and we're just building on this story of people who have won the most prestigious event in disc golf. And with the growth of the sport, I'm fully expecting more people to be watching the World Championships at the end of August, beginning of September this year than have ever watched a disc golf event before. And Eric, you probably agree with that.
No, absolutely.
It's going to there'll be a lot of eyeballs on it. What James Conrad and of course the finish between Paige and Kat last year at the 2021 World Championships. We have a tough act to follow as far as drama, but one thing I know is that we've got some courses that are certainly going to give us the opportunity for some of that drama.
Yeah, I think you talked about hole 13 Supreme, or at least that was one of the holes that you had mentioned. If I were a spectator, I would love to be on the road there. If I was a player, I would hate that because you're throwing high enough that you're never going to come close to hitting someone. But if I'm standing on that tee pad, I'm 100% thinking about that person down there. But if I'm the person down there and I get to watch Ricky throw a drive right over my head, that would be the coolest thing. Please don't do this because it's a terrible safety concern. That would need to be another pass that has a lot of waivers signed and, consent forms.
Right.
And no one's liable if you get hit, whatever. But
we'd have to take away the skip shot.
That would be an ambitious play with or without people on that hole.
I'm all about ambitious play, Anthony.
Right. This is true. We were just talking about so many people are watching.
Yep.
We're trying to create some drama here.
Yeah.
So put a triple Mando on that hole.
Yeah. Eric, one thing we are going to do, which doesn't really change the holes themselves, but there was a little bit of a flow. I think we can get a better flow by, holes 8, 9, and 10. Instead of going 8, 9, and 10, I think we're going to go 9, 10, 8. And that should make things flow a little better for spectators also.
It should. And the reason behind the way we went originally was because it's a par. We didn't want it to be like par 4, par 4, par 4, par 3, or par 3, par 3, par 3, so we wanted to make sure it's spaced out properly. And I think I've always said this, agree or disagree. I don't have issues walking in between holes as long as I'm walking to a good hole. You know, like the walk from USDGC every year, 16 to 17. You know, you're walking. I mean, that's a mental struggle in its own. You know, knowing what's coming up, and especially if it's last day, last card, you have a lead, or you're trying to catch somebody. I mean, there's a lot of intensity right there, and you know, we kind of have something similar at the Emporia Country Club between hole 15 and 16, where you got to walk over to the island hole, which is, I mean, arguably a decision maker on the tournament.
Without a doubt. Yeah. I love that walk. And the one at USDGC, like you're talking about, I mean, that is probably the most, you know, intense tee shot, one of the shortest tee shots on the course, but just to have to think about that shot. You know, do I lay up? Do I go to that safe zone? Do I go for it? You know, I could only imagine.
Yeah. And I love the walk from 15 to 16 at the country club, because like we were talking about, you have to cut through spectators. At Dynamic Discs Open, there was 150 people at least that just showed up at hole 16 and just
wanted to hang out there all day.
They just sat there all day. Yeah. There was, I don't know how many thousand people on the rest of the course, but they were just there. And by the time lead card, chase card, those people are coming through, there's just a huge gallery. Like, the whole time you're walking, you're just looking at the water. There's all these people. You got to walk through all of them. And then, now you're standing there looking at all this water. Everybody's lining the side of it. Like,
it's pretty cool. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, Eric, we could let the cat out of the bag on one change that is similar to what we did at the country club. For a couple of years there, we were really trying to find ways to get more people to go for the island green.
Oh, right.
A lot of people were kind of just laying it up to the side and then pitching up for their three. And many new fans to disc golf may not know this, but that wall on the back of the island was not always there. And boy, Eric, that has certainly changed the way things go on that hole. And of course, the dock tee pad now, where it's more of a straight shot at the island. But at hole one at the Supreme course, a very special island in itself. A lot of people stuck the island and then slid off the back. And Eric came up with this idea to add another row of rocks on the back of that island, so that if you do hit the island, you stick on it. Now we're looking at the logistics of how we can do that. We're also considering maybe even moving the pin up to the front of the island, so that if you do stick the back of the island, much like number 16 at the country club, if you use that backboard, you still have a 30-footer
you're not done
coming back with water behind you.
Which is scary.
Which I think will create the exact same thing at the Supreme course, Eric, where if you do collect against that back wall, now you have to hit the front of the island, a pin that's at the very front.
Correct.
That's a nervous putt. And I also think, Eric, that potentially could bring more possible ace runs into it with the pin at the front of the island.
Yeah.
Such a good hole. I love the fact that at the two courses we're using for Pro Worlds, we have 2 hole ones that are so different. At the country club, you're going to grab the disc you can throw the furthest, that you can control the best, that you can just pump down that fairway.
Yeah.
And then at Supreme 18, you're clenching parts of your body, trying to think, am I going to stick this small island?
What am I going to do? So, and then you do that on hole 2, the same on hole 1 as you did it. Yeah. So, I'm excited for that change. And then obviously a favorable drop zone as well, to give even more incentives to go for it. Give it to where it's an actual putt that you can make or run, I guess. So,
especially if it's at the front.
Yeah.
Yeah. That'll shorten the distance. Plus it gives you the rest of the island to kind of, if you miss it, I guess if you miss short, if you cage it, depending on how close to the front it is, just boom, 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 right down the stairs.
Yeah.
Lots of scoring separation on that hole, though, which is what we wanted.
There was ton.
I mean, that's, if you have a hole that everyone gets the same score on, why is it even on the course?
Right.
So
what's the point?
That one is a great separator hole.
And that was for Dynamic Discs Open. That was holes 1 and 19 of the event that you played. Is it
1 and 19?
Like hole 1, round 1, hole 1, round 2.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
72 holes.
Yes.
It's holes 1 and 19.
Yeah.
For Worlds, is it the same thing? Is it a couple rounds at Jones and then you head to the country club, or does it flip flop back and forth?
It flip flops back and forth. There's 2 pools. We had a single pool at the Dynamic Discs Open, similar to most Elite Series events, but at Worlds there's 2 pools. So half of the pool, half of the field will play Country Club Supreme, Country Club Supreme.
And then a cut.
And then a cut to the Country Club on Saturday, our 5th day.
Mm-hmm. The final days at the Country Club.
Yep. And then the other half of the field will go the opposite direction.
Okay.
So they'll on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of Pro Worlds, there'll be pools at both courses the first 4 days. And then we're, as Eric mentioned, cutting down to the finals at the Country Club.
Cool. Do we know when, if somebody's trying to come to Emporia and whether they're practicing for the World Championships or they just want to play the course? Do we know when these changes will be made? Do we have a set date of August 1st, or do we know? That's just an example. Do we have a date when someone can know, okay, if I go to Emporia at this time, the courses will be done and I can really test them out?
Our target date would be the 1st of August.
It would be. Now, and keep in mind, most of these changes are not like crazy changes to where, I mean, if you came and practiced next week, you're going to get a pretty good idea on what you're playing for the World Championships. There will be a couple shorter pins, like Doug had mentioned, maybe a shorter tee here or there, but for the most part, it's going to be pretty much what they've played.
Very cool. So let's move on from one Elite Series event to another Elite Series event. We've got the Portland Open coming up this weekend.
We do.
All right. Portland Open. Surprisingly enough, taking place this weekend in, you guessed it, Eric, Portland,
Maine.
Nice.
They switched it on us this year.
That sucks for the disc golfers that are already on the West Coast.
Yeah, that's why it was an off weekend last week, because they had to go from Santa Cruz to Maine.
Made that trip before.
A couple pros saying to themselves, man, I got to check my email.
Right. Man. Yeah, I really got to read the fine print. Check the zip code or something. No, the Portland Open is going on in Portland, Oregon.
Yes.
Host of the 2014 World Championships. Portland Open has been an event. I'm sure people are familiar with Beaver State Fling, which is a Silver Series now.
It's next weekend also.
Yes, that's right. Beaver State Fling is at Milo McIver. We will not be playing that for the Portland Open. Portland is Blue Lake as well as the Glendevere Golf Course.
Yes.
Blue Lake is, as far as I'm aware, exactly the same as in years past. Glendevere, though, is a completely new course. It's a completely new design.
Didn't they just design it again last year?
They did.
This is another new design?
I believe.
Is that what it is? Okay,
yeah.
Cool.
So one thing, Anthony, the Blue Lake course does have one big, awesome change.
Oh?
It now has a bunch of blue veterans in it.
Hey, there you go. It's almost like that was probably done on purpose.
Oh, there might have been some intent there.
Well, I hope they're not intense. It might be rainy, but it's hard to putt. Yeah, so the Glendevere course was kind of like we had to do at the Municipal a few years ago, where the ball golf course there is actually, I believe, 36 holes. I think they have 2 courses, and they used to use one side, but then they switched it to the other side. So they said that this side is more hilly and more wooded, but I haven't seen anything from it. Have you guys seen any videos, pictures, anything about the new course design or anything?
I think I saw Dustin Keegan post a couple photos here and there, but that's about it. I haven't seen any coverage or any like round coverage or anything like that, but I'm sure that's happening right now, right? I'm sure they're doing that right now, or over the last couple of days, I'm going to edit it and put it out. But I haven't seen anything on that. I've seen a lot out at Blue Lake, but that's about it.
Talk to me about the Blue Lake course then.
Blue Lake course is big.
Yes.
I mean, I haven't been there since 2014, since that World Championships the last time I was there, but it's a good course. It's quality. I mean, it's lengthy. There's a lot of OB out there. I think a big factor is going to be if the wind is up or not, and if the rain is coming down, because you're in the Pacific Northwest, so you have to battle both of those elements, right?
Yep.
And if the wind is up, it is very challenging with how tight the OB is on a few holes. It's another one of those style of courses where if you just keep it in bounds, you're going to score well. So,
have you ever been out there, Doug?
I haven't. I did talk to Jeff Spring last week about a few things regarding the event, and he said some really good things about the second course, though, the one that was redesigned by Dustin, that he thinks that it's going to be epic. So cool. Looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah, I saw I think they actually used that word on the disc golf scene registration. I was trying to see if there was pictures or if I could find anything about it. And I think they said something about an epic redesign with more hills and more woods, which is it's the Pacific Northwest. You kind of expect woods, but when you hear that it's a ball golf course, that's not immediately what your mind, at least my mind, goes to. So I'm excited to see it. I think Portland Open's a great event. I know it's had some great finishes in years past. Obviously, Blue Lake has held one of the best finishes of all time. One of the best
playoffs in world's history.
Yeah. Before last year, that was probably my favorite finish to an event. Just like the last few rounds, I forget how much Paul was down, like 7 strokes or something. And then he and Rick went to a
4 or 5
hole playoff or something. Just nuts.
It was intense. I was there watching, and it was insane to watch it live for sure.
I can say this now because it's 8 years later. I worked at a disc golf store at the time, and I remember leaving work early so that I could go home and watch it when I saw that they were on a playoff. And I was like driving, and I think it was like Disc Golf Planet might have had the live coverage or something. I remember I was like driving home and I had my phone on in the passenger seat so I could listen to it. I got home with like second hole of the playoff or something like that. Yeah. It was right before Paul hit that
huge
like circle's edge putt on hole 2. Yeah. And then the gallery just starts running. Ricky hadn't even putted yet, but everybody just knew he was making.
Of course. Of course.
Wasn't that the event where Katrina won her first world title and actually showed up late to her first round and took a couple par plus 4s or something and still won the event?
I believe that does ring a bell that you're saying that now. I know it was her first win, first Pro Worlds win, that is.
Yep.
And it does seem like I recall something like that where she showed up late and missed a hole. I think it might have just been one hole though.
I think you're right, but
still,
what a way
starting
to say,
a tournament with a 7 or an 8, depending on
if it's spot everybody 4 strokes over par,
which isn't surprising because that first round was way out there at Trojan Lake.
Yeah,
at least it was for the MPOs. I guess it may have been different for FPO. I don't recall back then, but.
Eric, perhaps the next time we play, we should try that where you miss the first couple holes and I build up a little bit of a margin there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Eric.
Well, depends on what course we play. I could have the lead.
I can't wait for AJ to get back to town.
You guys can head over to the country club and check out the changes and everything after the round. I'll just start, and then if you want to catch up on like hole 15 or so, we could call it good there.
Yeah.
Looking at scores from 2014, it looks like Katrina she shot a 10-12 rated round 1, but her round 2 was a 9-18. So maybe round 2 is when it was.
Yep. So I think that is right.
Does it have the individual hole
by hole live scoring?
No, it doesn't.
I'm sure it's in an archive somewhere that you can find. But,
somewhere it's probably out there, but no, it doesn't have it. At least on the PDJ website, it doesn't show it. But it shows round 1, she was at Blue Lake. Round 2 was at Pier Park, which would be.
Oh, that's right. They did play Pier.
If there's traffic or something like that, depending on where she was staying. Pier is like in Portland, and the rest of it, like you said, Trojan is 45 minutes away. Everything else was far. So maybe she was staying farther away. Not 100% certain, but yes, she did end up
still won the tournament.
Winning. She sure did. So let's move over to our Grip 6 picks. So far, we haven't had the best results with our Grip 6 picks, but we do have results.
Yeah. There's we don't come in last.
We have not come in last. Yes. That is something to hang our hat on. That's absolutely true. Danny, if you're able to get that pulled up, we can go through and make our 6 picks. But hopefully this week we can get a little bit better. Now that Doug is here, Doug can hopefully be our good luck charm, give us a little bit more insight. But are you familiar with the way that Grip 6 picks works, Doug?
I believe you have to pick 6 top finishers.
Yeah,
that's correct.
That's exactly
nailed it.
And there's no, it could be 6 FPO, it could be 6 MPO, or a combination of all of those.
And there's no rating cap or anything either. It's just pick 6.
Okay.
So the rules, the 3 rules it has listed here is it says tap on 6 total players. Your picks can be a combination of MPO and FPO players. The player that wins each division gives you 0 points. All other players give you 1 point for each stroke they finish behind the winner of their division.
So a score of 0 would be impossible.
Correct. Unless there's a 6-way tie for first place and or like a storm happens and they cancel the event.
Then everybody wins a belt.
Yep.
It's true. Sending out a lot of belts.
Sounds like we're talking about April and Emporia, Eric.
Yeah, we are. Yeah. We're talking about May/June in the Pacific Northwest.
So,
all right, so who we got?
Going off of last year's results, Eagle won. Eagle is not there this year. Paul and Ricky both tied 1 stroke behind Eagle for second place. So that might not be a bad place to start.
I'm gonna throw a wrench at you guys. Do not put Ricky in there.
Oh, that's right. Ricky's got some knee.
Yep, Ricky will not
fluids.
be at Portland. So
that's official.
Yep.
I saw a picture that showed a large amount of fluid that had been taken from his knee.
Correct. Yeah.
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 Hopefully he's doing better.
Yes.
Hopefully he can get doing better. But yeah, that was something like 11 ounces or something.
Yeah.
Basically a soda can worth of fluid was just hanging out in and around his knee.
Yeah.
Okay. So Eagle, defending champion, not there.
Not there.
Ricky,
still injury.
Defending silver medalist, also not there.
Yeah.
Calvin and Kevin Jones tied for 4th. Kevin had that like 7 on a hole. He's probably happy about the Glendevere redesign. Doesn't have to worry about putting on that
little mound.
Yeah.
Hole. Yeah.
That thing's gone.
That showed up on the news feed yesterday. I remember seeing.
Yeah. Brutal.
I would say Paul and Calvin are 2 you got to put in there regardless. Kevin, maybe.
Possibly.
But
you want to leave that as a potential?
I think we should leave that as a maybe. Only because Kevin hasn't quite lived up to his potential this year. Right. I would say, I
bet he would say that
in his he's having an off year for him. Anybody else goes out and has the finishes Kevin has had this year, fantastic. But Kevin is, like you said, I'm sure Kevin would say that as well.
Yeah, Kevin has 2 top 5 finishes. He got 4th at Vegas, 3rd at Jonesboro, but then everything else has been outside the top 15. Aside from All Stars, he came in 2nd. And then he played a C tier that he won early in the year. But yeah, everything else, his next best finish is 17th.
Yeah.
Which Kevin Jones is a top 17 player in the world for sure.
Oh yeah, easily.
So maybe this could be his event to get back to form. Looking at the FPO side, however, Paige Pierce is the defending champion. Katrina Allen came in 2nd. Haley King and Ella Hansen tied for 3rd. I haven't heard anything about them not being there. Do we want to start with Paige and Katrina?
You got to.
Okay.
You almost have to. Yeah.
So we've got 2 spots left.
Are we going to go with 2 MPOs or 1 and 1? Or what are we doing there?
I don't know. This is always where it gets hard.
It is.
Let's let Doug have like a 1 pick and we don't get to take it off.
Completely override.
Yeah, we don't get to override. You can pick anyone.
Well, I thought it was interesting you guys said something about Paul and Kelvin, and Kelvin's been playing well. Paul has not been playing particularly well.
Correct.
It's kind of weird that, we don't see him on the leaderboard
right,
like we have in the past. But I'll tell you a kid who's really impressed me, and we got to see him play firsthand here in Emporia for a couple of years. He won at least 1 junior world title, and maybe I think he just won 1, but played in maybe all 3 of them. But Gannon Burr just keeps impressing me, and for a young kid, he's doing some great work. I know we also have a couple guys that are on our team that are from that area. Probably not folks that'll make the Grip 6 pick, but people to keep an eye on would be Carter Aarons and Ty Love. I believe they're both from that area. Correct, Eric?
That is correct. Yeah. Carter's been killing it this year. He just had 2 back-to-back top 5 finishes at A tiers and averaging 10-25 rated golf, those events.
Yeah. And
impressive.
Ty Love, the other name you brought up, came in a tie for 13th at the 2021 Portland Open.
Yeah. I would add Gannon Burr to that list.
For sure.
Gannon's a great pick up there, yeah.
He's not even a controversial one we would want to overturn if we could. Do we want to add like somebody like Drew Gibson or AB because it's a bomber course? Or
Drew
James
Gibson
Conrad?
won it in 2020?
2020, he did win it.
Right?
Yep.
He has been rocking a bucket hat too.
He's been playing really well.
Is that the deciding factor? Just who has worn or will wear a bucket hat?
Man, that's a tough call.
Do we like the 4-2 split for MPO2 FPO?
It's tough. I mean, it's
right.
It's tough also not to take Valerie who's played very well this year at every event she's been at.
Super consistent.
Yeah, and AB is a great pick as well on a big bomber course, but he did roll his ankle the final round of OTB, and it was like a grapefruit on his ankle. So I'm sure it's healed by now. He's like 12.
Right.
That's not true. He's like 16, whatever, 18. I don't even know how old he is.
Yeah.
But he's young.
Something. Yeah.
And he is very good. Very good.
Speaking of young kids and somebody that kind of grew up in the Colorado disc golf scene with folks like Paige Bjerkaas, now Shu, and Eagle McMahon, is Aaron Gossage.
Yeah.
And that guy is consistently
he played good really well at OTB. Didn't you pick him up for your team? Yeah, that was a good pickup.
I absolutely did.
Yep. I used to play a lot of MP40 tournaments with his dad, and it's neat to see Aaron doing what he's doing. Fun fact here: his dad, who I used to play against, was the nephew of Goose Gossage, the relief pitcher for the New York Yankees back in the 1970s.
Nice. I would have never known that.
It's kind of a small world.
Yeah.
Huh. All right. So are we good with Paul, Calvin, Gannon, Drew, Paige, and Katrina?
It's between Aaron and Drew for me. Aaron's coming off of a tied for 20th last year. But like you said, Doug, he has been playing very well. In three of his four last events, he's come in third place. The only one that he didn't was an unfortunate 53rd at Masters Cup. But he got third at DynamicDiscs Open, third at the 303 Open, and a third place at OTB. I kind of like Aaron.
Yeah, I kind of do.
I think we go Aaron.
I think we just,
So Doug gets 2 override picks? What the heck? That's not what we agreed to.
Yeah, that's...
All right.
We will hold you accountable.
The tiebreaker that it has is how many total strokes under par will the MPO and FPO champions score?
And it's tough to go off of last year because it's a whole new course.
One course is brand new.
And it's epic.
It
is epic.
More woods, more hills, so it's safe to assume that it will probably be harder.
Yeah.
If we want to use last year's as a baseline, both MPO and FPO winners were 21 under. So
3 rounds or 4 rounds? Because I believe it's 4 this year.
Yes,
it is
and
4 this year.
It was 3 last year.
Yeah, because coverage starts Thursday.
So do we want to say 50?
30.
30?
Meet you halfway.
You think 30, even though they're adding another round?
Well, it was 21 for 3.
It's combined, so it was 42 last year. You combine FPO and MPO.
Oh.
Eagle was 21 under, Paige was 21 under, so the total was 42 under.
Okay.
Is 50 not enough?
50 should be plenty, especially if it's a trend on the new courses we're seeing on tour and how tough they are. And real quick, check the 7-day forecast.
I literally just did that, and it's calling for rain Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Not much wind, but precipitation is at 40 to 50% the entire time.
That's so rare to get that kind of rain in Portland.
This is Oregon, not Maine.
Did I say Maine?
What about, let's go 48. Sounds like a good number.
48?
48 sounds like a good number.
You good with that, Doug?
I am.
Okay.
Sounds good to me.
We'll take 48. So our picks are, who do we have? Paul, Calvin, Gannon, Paige, Katrina, and Aaron Gossage.
I like it.
48 strokes under par. You heard it here first, folks. This will be the final.
Mm-hmm.
What happens when we win a belt?
I don't know.
Do we just take turns with it?
Yeah.
We'll have to win 4 throughout the year.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
We got to crack the top 1,000 before that happens.
Yeah. We should probably get busy winning those.
Okay, Eric, there's a lot of people that do these, so 1,000 is pretty good.
Yeah, it is.
Crack the top 1,000. I think there's a T-shirt in the future.
Yes.
With that,
absolutely.
that slogan on
I think it's way easier for us to just get the T-shirt than win one of these belts at this rate.
Probably right. That's probably right.
The belt you should be wanting to win is our staff tags belt.
And I do.
We brought back the old wrestling belt.
Yeah.
Eric, you've had possession of that.
I did. I had it this year. The very first week out at, where did we play that week? I think it might have been Supreme. I don't really remember.
I think it was. It was at the Short Supreme. Yep. No, it was at the New Life.
Oh, it was New Life, which is kind of similar in difficulty.
I had the belt. Not true. I had the belt once, and it was when I was actually running tags myself.
And you brought it to the course to give to the winner.
And I intentionally brought it out when there was hail and 50-mile-per-hour winds.
Yeah,
no one else showed. I won the belt.
Yeah, you played one hole and done.
Right. Just so that you could say that you played.
Shoot, I could have taken that par plus 4 we were talking about and still won.
I was going to say, that's my only chance. I need Eric to actually show up on hole maybe 14, 15. And, then I'll probably walk away with like a playoff victory.
Eric tends to be one of the favorites at our local Emporia League nights.
Funny how that works out.
Yeah.
So I designed all the courses. And
I think he's like a world champion or something.
Many moons ago. Many moons ago.
All right. Does anybody have any closing thoughts on the Portland Open before we transition to some squad questions?
No.
All right. So our first question comes to us from Ben. Ben wants to know, going along with next week's new release, will the Sake Bomb Slammer be offered in premium plastics? Maybe a Lucid, a Fusion, Moonshine maybe? Or
to quote Jeremy Rusko, we're always working on something. Yeah, that's really all I know about it right now. We haven't dug deep into dug deep into future plastic releases for the Sake Bomb Slammer, but maybe.
Thank you for the applause, Danny. I appreciate that. Yeah. All right, next one is from Ian. This kind of is moving backwards a little bit. This is a question about disc golf experiences in stadiums. We just hosted one at Arrowhead, not this past weekend, the weekend before that. Ian wants to know, what is the history behind the disc golf experience at football stadiums? How long has it been going on? Is there any plans to possibly expand to baseball stadiums as well? Doug, you'd be the perfect one to answer this, as you've kind of been spearheading that.
Yeah, so the first stadium experience or disc golf experience at a stadium was in 2014 at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, where the Cowboys play. And I was actually not working for DynamicDiscs at the time. In fact, Paige and I and Colton Montgomery actually joined us. We came down from Colorado to play the event, and it was awesome. The following year in 15 and 16, the event returned to AT&T Stadium. And then in 17, we went out to Nissan Stadium in Nashville. In 18, we went to Arrowhead in Kansas City. Then in 19, Mile High out in Denver. In 20, we returned to AT&T, had a lot of COVID restrictions, and that was tough to run that one. And then in 21, we took the year off, and then we returned to Arrowhead this past year. We're always looking at a new location, somewhere that would work. Some of the stadiums are reasonable to rent. Some of them are just completely not reasonable to rent. So we won't go to those stadiums because it's tough to ask somebody to pay $500 to play 9 holes of disc golf. But and then we have looked at some baseball stadiums. The trouble with baseball stadiums is the contracts that they have with their baseball teams are that if you could pick a week during the summer where they're not playing, but if there's rainouts or things like that, there's never a guarantee, and it's just too risky during the season. And then if you go outside of the baseball season, which would be November to March, we run into issues with weather unless we go to like a really warm climate baseball
or like a
stadium,
dome, which isn't
or something
many
indoors. That's right. So, no, it's a lot of fun. One of my biggest thrills is to see somebody that is a dedicated fan of a football team who also is crazy about disc golf, get to combine those two things and play disc golf in the stadium on the field of where their favorite team plays. Yeah. I'd love to do that at one point in Minneapolis, but we'll see how that works.
Home of many Bears victories.
Eric, have you seen Anthony? He seems to have disappeared.
Oh man,
I'm gonna have to go see HR.
Yeah.
So Doug, how did that initially come to be? Was that a thing that we took to AT&T Stadium? Did AT&T Stadium reach out to us, and then is it kind of still the same, or has that changed?
Those first couple events were held when I was not an employee of DynamicDiscs. Eric, you might know a little more about the history of how the Arlington event started.
Yeah. I believe it was Brian Lamoureux was a big key person in the beginning stages of it. The gentleman that we worked with at AT&T Stadium is no longer there. He's actually out at Levi Stadium in California. And we were going to go out there at one point. I know we talked to him about that, but California is not cheap.
Sure.
And for us to get our entire staff, et cetera, it wouldn't be very easy to do. But in the beginning years, it was Lamoureux that was working with the gentleman there. And I believe that he just had a connection on the inside back then. And he had reached out and just kind of thought of the idea, hey, could this ever work? And it kind of seemed like a pipe dream back then, to be able to go into Jerry World and play. And it's, the Cowboys are absolutely not my favorite team by any means, but it has always been one of my favorite stadiums to go to just because it's 110 degrees outside and it's 72 inside that stadium. And it's just, it really is a good stadium.
Yep.
It's nice. And I feel like we have more freedom when we host that event at that stadium. It seems like, you get the locker room experience and there's just so much that goes into it, but getting off topic there a little bit, but it was Brian Lamoureux that was that spearheaded the original stadium experience.
Cool.
Yeah. You're talking about high prices in California. I actually looked into a hotel in California, but it turns out that you could check in, but you could never leave. So that's another reason why we decided not to.
Yeah, here we go.
I was just waiting to see how long into the episode before Doug hits us with a zinger. And I figured there was one coming there pretty soon. Our last squad question for the week comes to us from Thomas. Thomas says, I'll be hosting 2 USAMPC brackets and a trilogy challenge here in West Virginia. With the tournament in a box set up for these events, what are some ways as a TD to go above and beyond and make your event special for everyone participating? I figured you two would be perfect to ask. Obviously, Eric, people may not know it, but you started the Glass Blown Open. And then Doug, like we had alluded to earlier, tournament director of anything and everything at the highest level. So what are some suggestions to take? Maybe cookie cutter is not the right words, but where the tournament in a box programs that we have, they kind of do a lot of the groundwork for you, a lot of the base level stuff. So what's something that maybe a beginning TD or a first time TD even could do to make their event stand out or special or different?
Yeah. A couple things that come to mind right away is simple as reaching out to local pros that potentially want to come and do a clinic. Because I know a lot of these events are our players' first event that they've ever played, and just making sure that the player experience is well thought out, right? So having a clinic or, if you fundraise and have maybe an extra added item to the player pack, granted that's all on your back end that you have to do as opposed to what, we provide for you. But that's a couple things right off that come to mind and just make sure it's fun, just make sure it's a fun layout. One thing I wouldn't do if you are hosting the Trilogy Challenge is host it on a very big course. You want it to be more of a par 54 style. You don't want a lot of length to the course, something that's just obviously, of course, you're not going to lose a lot of discs on. Those kind of things are just keeping the players in mind as number one is going to be for a very successful event.
Yeah, I would add on to that. We do provide a lot of the things that you need to run an event, and I think it's a great gateway for somebody that's interested in becoming a tournament director to kind of start on that path. They're not sanctioned, but there are things that you still need to worry about. Two key things for me are communication and the course. Make sure that you're communicating with all the folks that you're trying to draw to your event or that have signed up for the event. Be very clear about what the expectations are, and then the course too. So often I can remember early on in my disc golf career, I'd show up for tournaments, and Eric, you can probably relate to this too, where, there was very little thought put into the course, the OB notes, marking the course, having, clearly communicating which baskets or which tee boxes you're going to play from. Have all of that very clearly documented and make sure that that's never an issue with the players. But make sure your course is ready. Make sure that you're communicating. We'll provide most everything else you need. And it's, a great way for someone to get into being a tournament director.
Yeah, for anybody that's either looking to run one or participate, you can find all that information at trilogychallenge.com. I don't know if we've publicly pushed or promoted it yet, but the discs are announced. The putter is a Prime Burst Agent. The mid-range is a VIP Ice Tersis. And then it looks like the driver is a Gold Burst Saint. Yeah. So you'll have a kind of a neutral fairway driver, a neutral mid, and then like a stable to slightly overstable putter. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
Cool. So yeah.
Is the Tersis Moonshine or?
Looking at the stamp, it just says VIP Ice.
Okay.
Yep.
But there's not actual. That's why I don't know if we've said this before or not, because it just shows there's a picture with the 3 discs and it says in the stamp VIP Ice, but
yeah,
it's kind of like a day glow yellow. So it's entirely possible.
Yep.
So yeah, trilogychallenge.com for all the information on running or participating in a Trilogy Challenge. And then if you want to join the squad to possibly get your question asked and answered on the show, you can do that by joining squad.dynamicdiscs.com.
Any information about the USAMPC, which is another tournament in the box that's running, you can go to discgolfmatchplay.com.
Yep.
And you can, we changed it up a little bit this year for singles, where we used to have, you had to win a local bracket, then you had to win a state bracket, and that got you to Emporia for the national championship. Mm-hmm. Trying something a little different this year, where if you win a local bracket, your ticket is punched to come to Emporia. So
really?
We're expecting more folks here for the big festivity at the middle of September, I believe, is when the championship of USAMPC will be hosted here in Emporia.
That'll be awesome.
Yeah.
Yep. That'll be really cool.
Match play is always one of my favorite events. Like just watching.
Yep.
Because anybody could win it, you know, and it's such a great event. And I feel like it gets kind of looked over.
Yep.
You know, the US match play. I mean, the winners, Doug, real quick, run through what the winners receive. The grand prize.
In years past, it was a 18-hole disc golf course. A free. I think the very first winner, $500, $1,000 a year in store credit, kind of discs for life. The payout, it's got to be the biggest amateur payout out there for any event. Yep. And to piggyback on what Eric said, if you haven't played match play, it's amazing that the way you score golf can change the way you play golf. Mm-hmm. And again, if you're going to lose a hole, it doesn't matter by how many strokes you're going to lose it. You're going to be down one on that hole and you move on to the next one, which means that, boy, I've been way more aggressive playing match play. And I've also been way more timid when I know 100%. That, I've got a couple strokes on a hole to work with. Don't blow it here. Mm-hmm. And so, pretty exciting. Yep. Love match play.
Yeah. So this year, the winner will get $1,000 credit to DynamicDiscs.com, 18 veterans and 18 T signs to be used wherever that person wants. So yeah, you will get you'll get hooked up. Plus, for signing up, you get a Prime Moonshine culprit, and I mean, really, what more do you want? At that point? Yeah. Brand new disc, brand new plastic. It's a very good disc as well.
Yes, I think they get 2 discs. I'm trying to remember what the other disc is. They get the culprit, and is it on the?
I'm looking.
Before I bring something up like that, I should probably know the answer.
I just can't be bothered to worry about something that's not a culprit right now.
Yep.
True. It's true.
I've been so excited for that disc, and now it's finally here, and that's just consumed my entire brain.
Yeah. There is a second disc that you do receive, and I believe it's a Latitude disc of some sort.
Okay.
So,
Cool.
So you have to sign up to figure out what that is.
Right. Yeah, that's right. We'll leave you in suspense on that one.
And then you can determine the other culprit.
That's 2.
That was awful.
All right, Doug. The last thing. Just cut the applause short for like 50%.
Does Danny not have like a groaning sound effect that he can use?
We could all just boo you if you'd like.
No, just applause for now, but I'll work on that for next time. Okay. I'll make sure to have that one ready to go next time we have Doug on the show.
All right. The last thing that Doug, you said you had wanted to tease this a little bit at the very end of the episode. You'd come into my office this morning and asked if I knew anything about the anniversary box. Talk to me about this.
Yeah. We started our relationship with Latitude 64 making discs just about 10 years ago. And so to celebrate the 10-year anniversary, now as a company, DynamicDiscs has been around for 16, 17, 18 years. But as far as actually being a producer of discs and a seller of our own line of discs, it's a 10-year anniversary. So many of you all may know that the first 4 discs we came out with, The Judge, The Escape, The Trespass, 3 staples in our lineup still, and then The Fugitive. And so we are going to be releasing a 10-year anniversary box sometime later this summer, probably around the time that Pro Worlds is being played, that will include one of each of those original discs. Now we're going to do some special things with them, like we are going to use the original molds that we used when those discs came out, but they might be in a special plastic or some glimmer or some moonshine or ice, or I don't know all of the specific details, but it'll be a really, really cool box to have because it will bring back the original discs that we came out with. And then we're going to follow that up with our Supreme line of discs, which a lot of people are already aware of what we're doing as far as those go. But much like the Royal line for Latitude 64, kind of modeling the Supreme discs after what Latitude has done with their Royal plastic, we'll be releasing again those 4 discs, the Judge, the Escape, the Trespass, and the Fugitive. But in those cases, with that technology to create that Royal-like plastic, we are going to need to make some new molds, and I believe those molds are actually already made. And so those discs will have a slightly different flight characteristic to the originals, but really exciting to see the Judge, the Escape, the Trespass, and the Fugitive out at the end of this summer in two different models, the Supreme model and then in the anniversary box. So everyone should keep their eye out for those.
Very cool.
I got to say, the Supreme Trespass, oh man, that disc is going to be so good.
I love what Latitude has done with that Royal plastic is superb. I mean, you see how many of the top pros are out there. It seems like every time I tune into Disc Golf Network, they're talking about throwing those. And to have that plastic with some of our discs is just going to be awesome. Yeah. I can't wait. Yeah. And I agree with you. I think that Trespass is going to be good. That's a disc, unlike the Raider, that if it was a little more stable, I could find a use for it.
Which is why I had the Lucid X one for so many years, and it was so good. But a Supreme? Whew.
Yeah. I'm curious to see what the new Fugitive will do, because that was kind of not a super popular disc, but you never know. They can't all be home runs. They can't all be home runs. That's
3 out of 4 ain't bad.
That's right.
For brand new.
That's right.
Yeah, but it'll be interesting to see how that new Supreme Fugitive flies. And I think there's a pretty good chance it becomes something that people are it's going to become pretty popular.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you, Doug, for not only giving us a little bit of insight onto things like that, but for filling in for AJ, hitting us with a couple of Doug zingers there at the end of the show. Yeah. Eric, thank you for sitting down as usual. Different record time, but same day.
Yeah.
I want to encourage all the listeners, Anthony, that AJ will be back next week. So please tune back in. Yeah. This is not going to be the normal. I don't want to run off any of your viewers or listeners, but AJ will be back next week.
Right. Yeah. You'll have to wait a while for the anniversary box. You do not have to wait very long for AJ's return.
Correct.
He will be here next week for episode 28 of Understable Minds. Until then, we'll just sit here and wait. Doug will get up, and then whenever AJ
we'll
gets
just sit and wait for AJ.
Yeah, we'll just wait for him, and then when he gets back, we'll high five and sit here and
silence.
Talk again. Just wait. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay, cool. Bye, everybody.